$50 an ounce is just an area where it's going to bounce off of resistance for a little while. And then it should blow past it. And I believe $150 silver is absolutely appropriate. This is the last opportunity to take advantage of something like this. This is the last great precious metals bull market.
Hello, Gold Silver family. Alan Hibbert here with another video, and today I have some breaking news about Russia and buying silver. So I want to bring that to you guys as soon as possible, and I'm joined today by Mike Maloney. Mike, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good.
Okay.
So what I want to share is an article I saw on Zero Hedge. It's called "Will Russian Buying Drive Silver Beyond $50?" And this came October 7th, so hot off the press. I want to read a little bit here. Basically, Russia has decided to buy a bunch of silver for its strategic reserves. A report from the Russian news agency Interfax last week reveals Russia's plans to substantially increase its precious metals reserves in the coming years. The report states that Russia's state fund plans to acquire gold, silver, platinum, palladium, and gemstones. Russia's decision to add silver to its reserves distinguishes it from most other central banks, which have largely focused on accumulating gold while overlooking silver. Along with several other bullish factors, Russia's silver purchases could be a key driver in pushing prices to $50 and beyond. And Bloomberg's translation of that original report reveals that Russia's state fund plans to allocate about $500 million to precious metals and gemstones in 2025, with the same amount set for 2026 and 2027. So a multi-year plan to accumulate gold, silver, and the other good stuff. What do you think about this, Mike?
Well, I think palladium and gemstones are stupid for as far as them accumulating this for reserves. Platinum, you could accumulate not for reserves, but a stockpile, because it's the best catalyst for a whole lot of different things. Platinum has some uses, and when the price goes up, they will switch to palladium sometimes or silver, but they don't work as good as platinum. But when it comes to accumulating reserves, it really should be only gold and silver. And, as far as Russia probably won't push, by themselves, silver beyond $50, but it really doesn't matter. What we've seen over the past few years here, several years, is that, sorry, my phone was, need to put it in airplane mode. The accumulation of the world's central banks of gold, it's been very slow and measured. Like Poland now is in the top 10 or top whatever it is of the countries. They just broke in, they broke through a barrier. They've accumulated quite a bit. They just came out with that statement, I think a few days ago. But when the world's central bank, when stuff starts going bad, and it is going bad, and all you have to do is look at the 30 seconds to midnight series and the data that you helped me put together. It's in the book about the Fed going bankrupt and about the payments that they are unable to make because there's no profits left. They used to be profitable from 1914 until September of 2022. The Federal Reserve was profitable and turned over their profits to the Treasury. And now they owe the Treasury about $200 billion. They've given the banks $500 billion, and it's all in the 30 seconds to midnight. The Fed is bankrupt. The 30 seconds to midnight series is one that everybody should watch. But as the world's central banks start to rush toward, it's like back in the bull market of the late 70s, people were sort of walking at first toward gold and silver, and then they ran, and then it turned into this big rush. And when it did, gold, which used to be $35 an ounce, was now over $400 an ounce. And it seemed like that was really high, $400 an ounce. And so that's when the public started to change their preference to silver. the world's central banks will do the same thing. So Russia is just the leader in this. They are the first. Later on, there will be more central banks adding silver to their reserves. And when that flood comes, when gold starts getting too expensive, even central banks will look at the silver and they'll go, oh, the gold silver ratio is up at 80 or 90 or what, if the world's central banks start rushing into gold first, maybe that gold silver ratio gets back up to 120 or something like it did during COVID. But at that point, the world's central banks will change their preference just like the public did back in 1980.
Yeah.
And yes, where it says beyond $50. Yes, it's going to be way beyond.
Yeah, I think so too. All right. Yeah. Well, I've got a couple other clips and a couple charts from this article I thought we could dive into. So okay. One of the clips here explains the reasons why Russia is doing this. Amid surging global debt, and rapidly expanding currency supply, central banks are wisely diversifying their reserves into hard assets like gold and now silver. As fiat currencies rapidly lose value and government bonds become increasingly risky, these assets offer a safer alternative. It's entirely logical for Russia to further diversify its reserves with an assortment of precious metals, especially in light of the economic sanctions that have cut the country off from the SWIFT banking system. So yes, and when I read this, I immediately thought, yeah, these factors that apply to a country like Russia also apply to individuals, right? Like all of these reasons of crazy amounts of debt, expanding currency supply, bonds that are risky, and potentially people being cut off from the banking system. It might not be SWIFT, but like their banking system for various reasons all over the world. It's like, it makes so much sense to me to get your hands on gold and silver and other tangible assets. What do you think, Mike?
I think you're exactly correct. The reason it's not an expanding money supply, it's an expanding currency supply. First of all, you can't expand the money supply without mining it, because the only thing that's proven to hold its value through the centuries is gold and silver. They are money. So far, nothing else is. Maybe Bitcoin will be in the future. I have no idea. But they're diversifying their reserves into hard assets like gold and now silver. Fiat currencies rapidly losing value. Yes, we used to have, very often people will compare, and we've done it many times, all the fiat currencies like skydivers. After they've jumped out of a plane, they're all falling at different rates. They've got different size parachutes. They weigh different amounts. They're all going down at different rates compared to gold. Well, it was August 15th of 1971 that we jumped out of the gold airplane. The gold is not a parachute. The gold was the airplane that all countries jumped out of when the U.S., which was the hub of the Bretton Woods gold standard, when Nixon ended that relationship to gold, all countries on earth were like pushed out of that airplane. We all have these floating exchange rate fiat currencies that are just insane and make it not just difficult to invest somewhere and do import and export, but they also make it difficult for travel. And then Russia being locked out of the SWIFT system. The worst thing that they could have done for the dollar, the global dollar standard, is to weaponize the global dollar standard. When they did that, that was what the biggest, since 2009, I've been giving presentations on the death of the global dollar standard. And it's happening very slowly, and it will continue to happen slowly until the day that it doesn't happen slowly, and then it'll happen very rapidly. And the biggest nail in the coffin so far was the weaponization of the dollar. It's got all of these countries trying to figure out how to get around the dollar, but it's difficult because, like George Gammon says, it's just like apps on your iPhone. What phone has the most apps? Are you going to buy an old flip phone? The dollar has the most apps, basically. It's got the most things that you can do with it, all of the different derivatives and the trading that goes on. There's nothing else that people can just run to instantly that is an alternative. But there are, as we know, much better stores of value. So yeah, that's a great list, and they're all true.
Yeah, Absolutely. And it's the weaponization of the dollar is really incentivizing countries and companies and individuals to find a workaround. I mean, that's sort of what's prompted the entire cryptocurrency revolution. Obviously, it remains to be seen how effective those will be and in what capacity. But yeah, it's just another incentive, another set of incentives to innovate, really. So
Yeah.
only a matter of time. All right, last little clip here. While the Interfax report did not specify how much silver Russia's state fund plans to acquire, this move is noteworthy as Russia becomes one of the first countries to diversify its reserves into silver. So as you mentioned a minute ago, other countries will probably follow. With gold prices continuing to surge, other nations may also continue adding silver to their reserves, a trend that, alongside numerous bullish factors, could drive silver to $50 an ounce and potentially much higher. So we did talk about this a little bit. Anything you want to add here?
$50 an ounce is just an area where it's going to bounce off of resistance for a little while. And then it should blow past it. And I believe $150 silver is absolutely appropriate for we did a chapter on silver in the Great Gold and Silver Rush of the 21st century. And we showed that there is nothing that you can measure in modern society that is selling at a discount to its 1980 price. And then as we looked at the expansion of all of the different of the stock market, the currency, several different measures of the currency supply, the price of real estate, the price of this, the price of that from the 1980 high, it was some astounding numbers. Some of them, if you used that expansion, were giving us quadruple digits. So you were over $1,000 an ounce if silver went into the same kind of bubble against other assets that it was in 1980. And as we know, history very often repeats. I like to say it always repeats, but with little twists. And so, I think $50 is just as sort of a stopping point on the way. It should go up and hit that, and there will be a bunch of people that see that as resistance, and they will sell. But then it'll build another base and blow right through that $50 thing. And that just remove the word potentially there from the last sentence.
That's right.
Just replace it with go, an ounce and go much higher.
Yes, exactly. I totally agree. Well, let's look at a couple of charts, and they're right on the theme of what you just talked about. The first one here is a triangle pattern here. The latest news from Russia reinforces the technical chart patterns I've been tracking. This isn't me. This is the author of the article, which suggests that silver could reach $50 and beyond in the near future. In a recent article, I highlighted how silver's monthly chart reveals a breakout from a massive 2-decade-long triangle pattern. This breakout signals that silver is on the verge of a powerful bull market. And you can see this long-term triangle going back to roughly the year 2000, forming support, and the 2011 peak forming this resistance line. And we did break out earlier this year, and it looks like we're staying above that line. So this signals to me that we're already in the bull market, of course, but it's probably going to go a lot higher.
Yeah, and anybody that was listening to us, we were pointing out gold had a triple top. It had an inverse head and shoulders. It had a big cup and handle. And then I analyzed silver as well, long before this article, and showed that you had this down tilted inverse head. You had a bigger cup and handle than gold. You had the inverse head and shoulders. You've got sort of a triple top. And I said that when the breakout happens, there's going to be a slingshot move. And there it is. Anybody that wasn't positioned in silver then or buying then sort of lost out on that slingshot move. But, the fat lady has not sung yet.
Yeah.
It ain't over.
Yeah. We're just getting started. And silver's up like 50% in the last 12 months. So
exactly, and somebody could have taken advantage of that had they, a lot of people did listen, but a lot of people didn't, and so the patterns were so obvious, and then silver was confirming gold's pattern, and gold drags silver with it for a little while. Silver did, when the breakout happened, silver took a little bit of time to also break out. But gold drags silver with it all over the place. There's a fairly tight correlation, but it's not a perfect correlation, and silver lags usually. So yeah. So right. I just want to say that for the audience that yes, he's got this chart in here. This chart is great. Ronnie Stofferle of Incrementum also shows this chart, although he tends to use monthly data instead of daily data. But we've been over this many times, and we were showing it as it was developing. And so that 50% move, that's big, but it's nothing compared to when we hit $50 again. So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, speaking of $50, you mentioned earlier that it's a resistance line, and that's what we see here on the long-term logarithmic chart. So if that previous chart isn't exciting enough, silver's logarithmic chart dating back to the 1960s reveals a cup and handle pattern that you just talked about, Mike, that suggests silver could reach several $100s per ounce during this bull market. However, a close above the $50 resistance is necessary to confirm this scenario. You can see that $50 resistance line. We've bumped up against it twice over the last 44 years, and we are poised to go much higher.
Right. I just want to say we were the first ones to show that long-term, the 44-year cup and handle, the one that goes all the way back to January of 1980. There was other people talking about the cup and handle that had developed this century since 2011, that cup and handle right there. And then we made a video, or I did. I can't remember if it was both of us or if it was just me, but I made a video on the cup and handle. And it went with that series where we were developing that triple top, inverse head and shoulders, and cup and handle for gold. And then I took a look at silver. And when I looked at the long-term chart, I went, oh my God, because you've got a cup and handle in the handle of a cup and handle that is so big that you are talking about $150 silver or higher. And so I believe these patterns so far have been very reliable. And, it's not a for sure thing, but, and I also believe this is the last opportunity to take advantage of something like this. This is the last great precious metals bull market. We're going to have AI soon. And when we reach that singularity, when it just takes off, we're going to be, after that, in a commodities bear market. Now, gold and silver are money. They're a commodity, yes, when in down times, but they really become, we wrote a lot about that in a chapter on, it was the gift of Giffen in chapter 7 of the Great Gold and Silver Rush. And if you don't, if the audience doesn't know what a Giffen good is, and you're thinking about investing in gold and silver, you really should find out what a Giffen good is, because there is going to come a day when gold and silver stop trading like a commodity and trade like money. And it's going to be, against bonds that people will have, where that becomes a risky investment. And so when you're in search for safe havens, the safe havens are bonds right now, US treasuries, gold, silver, cryptos. Those are the safe havens. But when US treasury is more than 90% during panicky times, more than 90% of the of funds go toward US treasuries usually. And there's that 10% that might search for alternative assets like gold, silver, and cryptos. But imagine what happens when people start asking themselves, well, am I ever going to get paid back? Does the US government have the ability to? And then they take a look at like the demographics, the retirees, the government sort of, it depends. I don't know which way the elections are going to go. Nobody does. But I do know that some of the proposals, as far as a 44.6 capital gains tax and an unrealized gains tax, these things are going to crush the economy. These are proposed by people that know nothing about economics. That's the problem. is when people that don't know anything about economics are in charge, we're in some deep doo-doo. And I just think that the next time that we have a big rush, people will also be, that bonds will be suspect. And when bonds are suspect, gold and silver become the ultimate Giffen good. And this is something that people should read. It's in chapter 7 of Great Gold and Silver Rush.
Yeah, absolutely. And for folks who don't know, a Giffen good, like, well, ordinarily for a regular good, if something gets cheaper, you say, all right, I'll buy more of it. That's a good deal. But, a Giffen good is kind of the opposite. As it gets more expensive, that's when people say, oh yeah, now I really want it. And that's what you're saying happens to gold and silver. As that price goes up, people say, all right, now I want it. I didn't want it when it was cheap.
It's
now
the opposite. It's the opposite of normal supply-demand dynamics. And an economist named Giffen proposed this back in the 1800s, I believe. And so gold and silver are the ultimate Giffen good, where their supply-demand dynamics versus price are pretty much, they go along with normal supply-demand dynamics and then suddenly flip. And they're exactly the opposite of normal supply-demand price dynamics.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
So getting back to the silver here and Russia buying, there's really two scenarios, or I guess there's at least two different reasons why Russia could be buying all this silver and other precious metals and so forth. And it's sort of like it could be used in industry or used as money, effectively, right? If you're planning on trading it. And there's also two ways of looking at it, which is basically like, okay, are they preparing for wartime or are they preparing for peacetime? And I think it could be a combination of all these different things. So I found this other article which came out almost a year ago, and it basically says silver demand increases due to new hypersonic missiles. The arms race in space, remember Trump created the Space Force during his administration. I mean, I almost forgot about it, but apparently the arms race in space is intensifying. This could consume millions of ounces of silver. And I'll just read part of this here. The introduction of the new hypersonic missiles will be like a revolution similar to the introduction of cell phones, and it will require vast amounts of silver. Historic market growth is expected, surpassing all previous military technologies. That's a pretty bold claim that there's going to be more silver used in this than in all previous military technologies, because there's a lot of military technologies that use silver. It's not only used as an investment metal in jewelry and in industry, as a material of special properties, it also plays an important role in fighter planes, tanks, bullets, night vision goggles, bombs, and missiles. And that's just the military sector. So yeah, if World War III happens, I mean, obviously, hopefully not. But it could be that Russia and other countries begin or continue to prepare for this. Again, this article is a year old. So we could be seeing a tremendous amount of demand for silver coming from the military sector. Any thoughts on that, Mike?
Well, if we do have World War III, it'll be very bullish for silver until the day that we're all dead, and then we will be gone, and there will still be silver, just sitting there doing nothing.
Yeah.
I don't know. Here is, this is extremely bullish for silver. Yes. One of the things that happened throughout history is the U.S. used to have the world's largest silver stockpile, the Strategic Silver Reserve. The word strategic is because the strategy involved for war and so on, you need silver for all these things. And we liquidated that stockpile. It's gone.
Yeah. Not good.
Not good. Well, no, good if you're a silver investor, because the government can't dump tons and tons and tons of silver onto the market to suppress the price. They don't have any. And then instead of using the largest stockpile on Earth to build all of these things that you're talking about in this article, they've got to go out into the market and buy it. So that's the reason it's so bullish. Yeah.
Well, yeah, bullish for the investor, but it's not bullish for your military that's trying to protect your country. So anyways,
Trying
so
to
silver's like
protect
a
the
hedge.
country or destroy the world. I mean, there's two ways of looking at it.
Yeah.
So
Well, yeah, and then the other side of the coin here is if there is peacetime, right? If we're able to avert war, and hopefully that's the case, there's all these other applications for silver, and this is not a complete list, of course. There's jewelry and decor, mirrors. As a kid, I always wondered, how does a mirror work? Like, what is that made of so I can see myself? Well, silver. Electronics, right? Anything electronic uses silver. It's the most conductive element on the periodic table. Solar panels and the whole green energy revolution, tons of medical applications because silver is antibacterial and antimicrobial. It's used for water purification, photography, musical instruments, and batteries. So there are so many applications for silver. Super bullish any way you look at it.
yeah, well, there's two things. One, the batteries. I can't remember which company it was, but there was just an
Samsung?
announcement. Huh?
I
Maybe it
think
was
Samsung.
that new battery that uses a lot of silver that is so much more energy dense than lithium ions and charges very, very quickly and lasts a very, very long time, a lot of cycles. That uses a lot of silver compared to the current batteries that are being used. But the other thing is, you said if we can avoid war. It doesn't matter if we avoid war, they still prepare for it. So it'll be all of this going on, plus the expenditures in the military. It isn't like one or the other. This doesn't have to be the safety net just in case we don't have World War III. In their preparation for World War III, that will be happening with this simultaneously. Pretty much nothing is going to stop the military-industrial complex from expanding and using tons and tons of silver.
Yeah, absolutely. Super bullish on silver. And one other use of silver, I learned about roughly a year ago when I was in India. I saw this at a tour of a palace, a giant urn made of silver that can hold 2,000 liters of water. And the Indian Empire would use this to hold water whenever they would travel to visit other empires. And several centuries ago, the land wasn't developed. It was jungle, right? They had to traverse very difficult terrain. And of course, they wanted to bring safe drinking water with them. So this is how they did it because of silver's antibacterial properties. And they would carry these giant urns on the backs of elephants. You can see this is like as tall as a person, maybe 6 feet tall, 2 meters tall. And it's got to weigh, well, I guess 2,000 liters is 2,000 kilograms, which is 2.2 tons, I want to say. And that's just the water, not even the weight of the silver. So pretty heavy. So I thought this was pretty cool. And there's a picture of me standing in front or squatting in front of it to give you a sense of the scale. I could have fit in there, I'm sure. I don't know if I would have made it through the neck, but I could definitely fit in there.
They need to up their security. Imagine what that will be worth when silver goes past $50 an ounce, when it is 150 or higher. The value of that thing, and they've just got it in a glass box. It doesn't look like there's any, I suppose it's in some museum or palace and highly protected, but still, when that thing is worth several million, it's probably the collectible value probably makes it worth several million now, but it's going to be extremely valuable in the future.
Yeah. I'm not sure how you'd carry it. You'd have to break in with an elephant and break out with it. I don't know. It weighs a lot. And speaking of elephants, later that same day after I toured the palace, I actually got a chance to ride an elephant. It was super awesome. A lot of fun. I would encourage anyone to do that if you ever get a chance. So yeah, that's all I got. Thank you so much.
I'm envious. Sometime or another, I'm going to have to start living my life instead of just working all the time.
Yeah, well, now the video's over. Go ride an elephant.
Okay. Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, everyone.